Live from the KWQC Broadcast Center, this is TV6 News at 10.
If you build it, they will come. That famous quote from the movie Field of Dreams. This weekend, thousands are coming to the site to celebrate.
Something we prayed for.
She calls it a major victory, an effort to clear the air, but at what cost to a local company?
That's my way of thinking. The good Lord saying, look, Barb, I've seen enough of what you're doing. It's going to come to a halt. And he smacked me with that billboard.
She lost nearly everything and says problem gamblers need more help. Good evening, I'm Gary with TVA. Topping your first 6 minutes tonight. A new report estimates up to 9,000 Iowans may have dealt with a gambling problem last year, but less than 700 received treatment through the state.
I'm Bailey Dietz. Sharon has the night off. An issue is less funding for programs and advertising. The marketing campaign for 1-800-BETS-OFF, the problem gambling hotline, received 75% less money last year. KWQC investigative reporter Mark Stevens takes us behind the numbers.
Money spent on problem gambling support has steadily decreased over the last 5 years. About $4.4 million was spent on gambling addiction services back in 2009. About $2.7 million was spent on the program last year, a 33% decline. The state eliminated a gambling treatment fund back in 2010. Gaming taxes now go to the state's main pot of money. As those dollars have decreased, less money is spent on treatment advertising, and less people know they can get help.
Just the sound of those machines going off is like a magnet. It just drags you in.
Bettendorf retiree Barbara Ware never gambled in her life. She voted against gambling in the 90s, but one night found herself heading to the boat.
I have a compulsive personality.
She started small, $20, then $100. Eventually, gambling consumed her.
I get paid on Thursday evening. I would cash my check, go home, take a shower, go to the boat. By Friday morning, I was broke.
She'd take extra hours at Alcoa, earning more money to go to the boat. For a year and a half, she chased the dream jackpot.
I was going to give it to the church. If I hit a big enough jackpot, I was going to build a church.
The jackpot never came. Instead, a vision came after visiting her son in St. Louis. His water heater broke. Barbara had enough money to pay for it, but chose not to. She wanted to gamble and did so when she got back home.
As I was leaving, I opened the door, and when I did, it was just like an explosion. I seen that water heater blow up, and my family was killed. I dropped to my knees, and I crawled out of there, throwing up and crying.
Driving the next day, she saw a billboard for 1-800-BETS-OFF. She called and enrolled in treatment, but the money to promote the gambling hotline has fallen over the last few years. Problem gambling counselor Megan Vance says that leaves people without a place to turn.
There's a lack of awareness of the treatment services that are available to someone that has an addiction.
Without more money promoting problem gambling help, Vance worries people won't know they have places to go, even as the state approves another casino.
If our casinos are building more casinos, but not recognizing the need to treat that percentage of people that are going to develop an addiction, then we're not going to have enough resources for the people that need it.
Ware banned herself from the boats when she started treatment. She agrees with Vance and says the state should spend more on problem gambling treatment.
If they help one person, you know, that's what it's about.
Before it costs another person what it cost her.
It's hard to think that I give that boat $180,000.
Her entire 401k in 18 months. In Davenport, Mark Stevens, KWQC, TV6 News.
The state taxes casino earnings at 22%. That money is sent to schools, roads, and debt payments. Some also goes to gambling treatment programs, but no dedicated state fund has existed since mid-2009.
Well, we kicked off the weekend with a beautiful Friday, plenty of sunshine. This evening, some clouds have been moving through, but those have mostly gone to the east, so we've got clearing skies overnight. It's going to be comfortable. Lows back to the low 50s to upper 40s. Rain off to our north and west will stay there through the day tomorrow, but it might throw a few clouds in our skies from time to time. We're at 57 in the Quad Cities, 61 in Dubuque, 57 in Macomb. And as we go through the rest of the night, lows bottom out in the low 50s. A cool start to the day tomorrow. Bright, though, as we start off our Saturday, 75 by noon, 82 at 3 o'clock. And again, with a few clouds, we'll still count on plenty of sunshine.
A Muscatine company already ordered to pay a record fine to the state this year is now facing the possibility of having to pay out damages to individuals. This after the Iowa Supreme Court today ruled that residents can file a class action lawsuit against Grain Processing Corporation, a plant that turns corn into industrial products. As KWQC's Katie Alexander shows us, some residents are calling this court decision a major victory.
Today's ruling by the Iowa Supreme Court overturns an earlier decision by a district judge who had thrown the lawsuit out before trial. Now, the 8 Muscatine residents who had filed the original suit can resume their legal action, seeking class action status in a suit that could ultimately include hundreds of people living around this GPC plant.
I think it's great. I believe it should happen.
Sherry Leonard has lived just over a mile from the GPC plant for more than 30 years. The vice president of the organization Clean Air Muscatine, she says she knows firsthand what the pollution created by that company can do for quality of life.
It gets all over people's cars, eats the paint off, and their homes are being destroyed. They can't go outside and enjoy the fresh air.
And that's the claim of the latest lawsuit, that the plant is a nuisance. Several Muscatine residents we talked to agreed.
They've had it coming for a long time, I think.
It is very stinky.
Because all the kids and all that to live around here and everything. It's just like pollution's bad, man.
Still, others say they've had no problems with GPC and say they're against any legal action that could hurt a major employer in the community.
Not if it's going to put a lot of people out of work, because we don't have enough work around here now for people to do.
GPC reps say they're disappointed by the Supreme Court decision and are looking at their options, adding in that written statement that they believe it should be up to the EPA and the DNR to regulate air emissions, not the courts.
The Supreme Court decision is great news for our clients and the citizens of Muscatine, and also great news for the citizens of the state of Iowa.
Today's state Supreme Court decision is just one more step in a complex legal process that could take years to resolve. For its part, GPC points out that the court ruling does not comment on the merits of the case, and the company says it is, quote, confident it will ultimately prevail, end quote. In Muscatine, Katie Alexander, KWQC, TV6 News.
In March, GPC was ordered to pay $1.5 million for environmental violations. The company also has to convert its boilers from coal-fired to natural gas-fired as a way to reduce air pollution. Last April, GPC also agreed to pay the EPA $129,000 for violating the Clean Water Act. In September, the EPA ruled the Muscatine area does not meet air quality standards for sulfur dioxide. The EPA made the determination after looking at air monitoring data from 2009 to 2011. High sulfur dioxide levels can cause difficulty breathing and worsen asthma symptoms.
2 Iowa State University students are in trouble after being caught in a smuggling scheme. Homeland Security agents say these 2 men tried to buy sensors used for U.S. military communication and lasers. The students told undercover agents the lasers would be used for experiments in Iowa, then changed their story and said the sensors would be used by a research institute in China. But officials believe the students are spies and tried to take military secrets to China. Both students have been arrested. With summer just around the corner, people are starting to open up their windows at home, and the emergency room has been seeing more and more accidents with kids falling out of the second-floor windows. KWQC's Tiffany Liu talks with a mother who went through a big scare.
He was upstairs playing in his sister's room with his brothers and sisters, and he said he was looking out the window, and from my understanding, he must have either looked too far.
Brigitta McNeil's 4-year-old son fell out of the window from their second-floor home.
He said he went headfirst out the window and did a flip and landed on his back.
She expects scrapes and bruises from a bike fall, but never thought her son would tumble out a window.
It's never happened to me, and so for me to think of it before this, I wouldn't have thought it was as common as what I've found out recently.
Genesis Medical Center says it's not out of the ordinary. In the past 2 weeks, their emergency room has treated 5 kids from a second-floor fall.
You cannot leave them unattended in a room with an open window like that if the window isn't covered.
Dr. Basher says kids can be seriously injured, so it's important to talk to them about window safety.
You can see broken bones, broken arms, broken legs. You can see injuries to the spleen, so serious injuries to the belly. You can see head injuries like concussions or skull fractures.
We haven't put the screen back in and the window's shut right now, so more or less we're keeping them on the main floor, the younger ones at least. a little more safe for them.
Brigitta and her son learned their lesson the hard way.
The first thing he said when you got him home was, "Mom, I don't like windows anymore," because he didn't realize that that could be a potential for a problem.
But she says she's lucky her son managed to get back up without any injuries. In Davenport, Tiffany Liu, KWQC TV6 News.
And to keep kids safe, experts suggest placing a guard or stop in the window. Don't open the windows more than 4 inches and move furniture or boxes away from the windows to prevent kids from climbing up to them.
Iraq is under siege. Reports from the area say Sunni militants are taking over cities and installing a strict Islamic rule. President Obama says he is not sending in troops now, but his national security team is considering options, including airstrikes, surveillance, and money.
The United States will do our part, but understand that ultimately it's up to the Iraqis as a sovereign nation to solve their problems.
Illinois Senator Dick Durbin believes American troops are not the answer.
I continue to believe the Iraqis have to solve their own problems. I hope they'll do it with the support of allies in the region, and there may be some way we can provide some indirect support. But sending American troops is not on the table.
Republican Senator Mark Kirk says he's worried about the destabilization of the region.
My understanding is when ISIS took over at Mosul, they took control of the central bank and got about $400 million. They would now be the world's richest terrorist group because of that heist.
This weekend, President Obama is expected to talk with foreign leaders about how to respond and make a decision in the coming days.
Well, some big-name stars are in Iowa, all to relive a film classic that really put one area of town on the map.
And she made a recipe that got the attention of the First Lady. Now she is heading to the White House.
And we've kicked off the weekend in just fine fashion. High temperatures today in the 70s. We'll take these to the 80s tomorrow. And it looks like we'll have to deal with some rain on Sunday, Father's Day. The weekend forecast coming up next.
You're watching Gary Mativier and Sharon DeReek. This is KWQC TV6 News at 10.